Good day, good night, welcome to Euro Today. I'm Kevin Laramee with Duane Rollins, coming back to you after a couple of days that we got all things working, and we're trying to get our schedule down path with this Euro, this emotional start to the Euro. Duane, how are you today?
Okay, yeah, emotional start's right. We're recording this Sunday night, so enough time has passed from what was pretty shocking images that we all watched, unfortunately, on Saturday. But I'm not going to lie, it was a little hard to get back into the tournament yesterday. It kind of seemed pointless. Even the Canada game was hard, and you know how much I followed that program over the years. But yeah, it's cliche to say, life's short and all that sort of stuff, but sometimes those cliches are there for a reason, and clearly we wish everyone involved in that well, and you the listener well too, because that's I think it's traumatic for people to see it, particularly if they've had it happen in their life, right?
And I'll be candid. I'll be honest with everyone here, and I think that's it was hard for me yesterday, and today too, and working this Euro with my functions. I was working that game, paying close attention, and keeping notes of everything happening. And yeah, it was difficult to be in the regie and having multiple angles of what's happening, and seeing, multiple angles. Just the same feed, but like multiple times. So yeah, no, it's not anything easy to see. I have rarely been as happy as I was when I saw the picture of him alive on that stretcher, carried off the pitch, and I think that's where I want to start, Duane. It's the presence of AEDs and paramedics at sporting event. There's a big reason, and that's the reason Christian Eriksen is alive today, because of paramedics, because of the presence of an AED right there, because they're able to revive them.
Oh, absolutely, and the great work of EMS, obviously. I remember like a decade and a half ago, like 15 years ago, that's another way to say that, Duane, writing a story on defibrillators when they first started to come out, and just learning then how vital they were and how effective they are. Like, the stats are absolutely shocking in a good way when you see how many lives they save. It's remarkable what a little thing like that can do. And, if you're out there and have any control over your own, men's league or women's league, I shouldn't discriminate on the gender there, invest in one. Seriously, especially if you have older guys around, right?
And you can get them for free, too. There's ways to get them. So, by the way, that's very important. I did have my, it's not just first aid. I was secouriste in French. I don't know what to do. Rescue, kind of, like Ambulance Saint-Jean rescue type of course. And I learned about AEDs and how to use them, and I saw it in action yesterday, and I think we're all happy right now. And there'll be consequences to his career. That's not even a topic I want to go into. But we want to, I want to talk about it, because there's no way to beat around the bush. And it was hard to watch. It was hard to broadcast. It was hard for everyone involved in this. And the Denmark players, that manager, Kenneth Holman, what a fantastic human being. His words of reassurance to his team, the stories that are coming out of this, the beauty, the fans, the reaction, the world rallying together. I'll choose to take that side of the story.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm, I went to journalism school, as most people know, and when something like that happens, you have to sort of find what you're taught to do is, and we could have a conversation about how the media handled the coverage of it, either now or days ahead. But what you are taught to do is to find those stories around it so that you're humanizing it a bit, and that can be a difficult thing to do, because it just can't. But you're right. Like, a lot of the stuff that came out after is pretty, especially, now that you know that he's probably going to survive this, at least it seems that way, and let's hope that is the case. They've described him in stable condition when I last heard an update, which would have been Sunday morning. You look at stuff like the Finland players applauding them to come back on the field. I don't know if you saw the video that went around where the Danish fans were chanting Christian, and then the Finnish Eriksen back. So little gestures like that are they do have meaning, and I think it showed, everyone's perspective came into play pretty quick in this situation. And look, it couldn't have been easy for Denmark, obviously, or the Finns. I don't think you should ignore that part of it too. Anyone that was there, it's obviously horrible. They came out and replayed it at the end, or finished it, I should say. That we could debate that. I guess Christian Eriksen himself told the fan in a FaceTime call to play it. So, and we saw what the result was, which is obviously secondary, but it'd be.
And just to go on that vein, I talking about the manager, which is Patrice Bernier's former manager, my colleague at TVA Sport, and Patrice Bernier only has amazing words for the Denmark manager. He used to manage FC Nordsjælland, I believe, when Patrice Bernier was playing there. And he's an amazing human being, and he said a very important phrase early this morning, European time. He mentioned that this happened yesterday. Now, in the next few days, we'll see in training how we are, and if we can even think to start to play the next game. Right now, in our locker room, we have different levels of shock in our players, in our staff, me. How we handle the situation, how we go back and even play if we can, is a decision we'll take together in the next few days. That's all I can say. And it's fun for once to not just be given the easy, we're going to do what we need to. There's more to it. And that is beautiful to see. People with principle that take decisions for the right reasons.
It's an honest answer, right? Because normally what you'd expect is we're going to rally, we're going to do it for them, we're going to do all that sort of stuff, right? Well, that raw TV movie stuff is cliched, and it's not necessarily how it's going to work out. Look, I suspect they'll finish the tournament. I also would expect that they're going to struggle in the rest of the tournament, which is, meaningless, but it's just the human nature of it. I don't think there's going to be some kind of Cinderella anything. And that's unfortunate, because this is, just on a purely soccer standpoint for a second. It's unfortunate because this is a good team, and it's a team that I think could have made some noise, but obviously you don't anticipate something like this. Look, obviously we had to start with this today. We'll get into talk some football in a minute here. It's not the first time I've seen incidents like this. It's pretty shocking. When I was a journalist in the news side of things, I've covered deaths before too. You're not a human if you're not affected by it, and it's affecting, and it took a damper off the tournament. It took me, I'm not going to lie, it took me to about the second half of England today before I was even, and that's an England game. I'm usually very excited for that. Like, I got up and I kind of turned it on and was doing other things, and it just didn't matter really. But once Raheem scored, and it was kind of fun again. We'll see.
I thought you were going to say once Raheem scores and it was coming home. Well, I thought we were good, but I want to bring this segue into it. From these images to the game following, to the Romelu Lukaku goal, to the run to the camera, Chris Eriksen, I love you. I had chills. I had shivers. That was my coping mechanism, was that moment. That was a beautiful moment. And fan of Belgium or not, that was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, and there were his son, he's playing a game for Korea. He also said something to the camera and didn't, obviously former teammates there, right? But it did show us how small the football world is too, how impactful he has been on so many people. And look, we wish him well. I hope that he's able to make a recovery. If he could get back in the game, that would be wonderful for him, I'm sure. But the important thing is he just gets back on his feet. And
the beautiful thing is he gets back to his family, hopefully. And that is probably going to happen at this point, which is the happy ending, is that. Yeah.
You're right. That's the TV movie. It's not going to be Denmark lifting a trophy. It's going to be him walking out of the hospital, right? And hugging that woman with the tears on the sideline.
And then, and just that's the end of that story. Now, there's no easy way to just continue. Belgium didn't win right after that. Quickly, what we can say about Turkey and Italy, well, it's a game that happened. Italy won, big victory. The Azzurri are back, but we all knew they were back with a performance in qualification, Duane, that was only equivalent by just a few amount of people, a perfect path to the group stage of the Euro for the Azzurri. On top of it, they only conceded 4 goals during their 10 games of qualifying, and they started this tournament with a 3-0 victory, which is a different thing. Under Roberto Mancini, Italy attacks. They did beat a good team, but Roberto Mancini says, don't get too excited. Calm down, sit down. Don't take 2 espressos, just take 1. It's just one path to the journey.
Yeah, Italy was impressive on Friday. It was a great start to the tournament to have a classic powerhouse playing, the first international major tournament on Italian soil since 1990. So it all was exciting. It was giving me the big nostalgic feels too. Just that, and just the excitement of having a tournament start again was fun. And yeah, I didn't know how. We just talked about Eriksson's issue off the top, but putting that aside, it was really nice on Friday to feel that energy around a tournament again. And the game turned out to be a bit one-sided, but you're right. Italy was impressive in that, and certainly do look like they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in this for sure. I thought the opening ceremony even was kind of fun in a very Italian way.
Okay. I thought you were going to talk about Bono singing in the virtual stadium.
Yeah, I actually wrote about that in my 9 to 5 because if people don't know, I write about tech and business news a lot. So I was writing about the tech behind that, which is it's a VR thing.
And it wasn't even that good. Like, I do a better green screen in my freaking studio than Edge at around his edge.
Yeah, I mean, that there is some interesting stuff coming down the pipe with virtual reality and concerts. It makes a lot of sense. But yeah, it's not quite there yet. And they're just fiddling around with it. I think that they booked out before they knew whether they could have anyone in the stadium, basically. So, whatever, that's that. No one asked you to be, well, I guess someone asked you to. It just seems like it's the cultural relevance of them was about 15 years ago at the earliest. So, whatever, they're around all the time. But I like the opera singer there. That seemed very Italian. I don't know his name. I'm sorry, I'm not that cultured. But
okay, so it's Andrea Bocelli was the opera singer, and it was Anna Durma was a song that he sang, a classic song, I believe, by Puccelli, but I'm not sure.
You'd have to
Puccini. Sorry, Puccini.
There you go. I'm gonna trust you on that one because I know you have someone in your household there that probably knows a lot of that stuff well.
Yeah, it's also had to write Anna Durma, so that I know. the name of the song I know. The rest, don't take my word for it.
But it was very beautiful and it was very Italian, and I kind of like that. But and we're talking more about the open ceremonies now than the game, which means the Turkey didn't really push back as much as I was hoping. I was quite high on them is the wrong way to put it, but I thought they would have a chance to maybe be a solid contender in this team. And so one of two things happened. Either one of three things, I guess. They either came out completely flat, Italy's better than we thought, or Turkey's worse than we thought. One of the three, or a combination of all, maybe. But competitive-wise, it was a little bit of not the best game, I think. 3-0 is not great, but it had entertainment. So good way to start the tournament.
It is a very good way to start the tournament. Of course, Turkey is the deception here so far for me in these Euros. Like, I'm going to start saying Euros, but it's just, we're talking about like multiple games, so it's the easy instinct to pluralize that, okay? But I know it's just one Euro. Don't get mad at me, Duane.
That's okay. We all do that Euro 6.
Well, the most popular hashtag right now is hashtag Euro 2020. The second is Euros 2020.
Yeah, it's the European Championships is the proper full name. So I think the Euros is inaccurate. They've just copyrighted, or they have a copyright on Euro. Yeah, that's all.
Exactly. It's a brand thing. Turkey was, of course, disappointing. Wales, to me, was nothing special. Of course, Switzerland came back in that game and it finished a draw. Switzerland was even open, saying we're going to go for the win, and they clearly wanted to, but it didn't happen, and that was that. Belgium got the job done. They look good so far. Italy, Belgium actually confirmed their form in qualification, which, because the qualifying happened in 2019 now, it's hard to take as much out of it than we usually do, but I guess they do mean a lot, because so far the most impressive teams in this tournament have been the teams that have performed well in qualifying. And then we can continue talking about Finland winning their first game at the Euro. They won. Also Austria. They have never won a game before at the Euro final. They've had losses and draws for the last 2 times they've been to the tournament. Now Austria, first win ever in the Euro. It's also about these stories. Team making their debut or team getting a first good result over decades of hardship.
That Austria North Macedonia game was pretty entertaining, actually. I wasn't sure what it was going to be, but I actually quite enjoyed it, and I think it was because they were very evenly matched, and I think that the right team won in the end. But North Macedonia getting the goal, the elder statesman on the team, all that was nice. It was a nice game, a nice story. It was kind of again, after the heaviness of yesterday, it was kind of nice to have something a bit positive to look forward to today. But it was quite entertaining. It wasn't as entertaining as the late game, which stands to reason, because I think everyone thought those as the best 2 teams playing each other today. Well, I don't know what England, Croatia, I guess you could argue that too, but which I don't know. We haven't even talked about that one really. It wasn't that great. I liked the North Macedonia game. It was I was sort of rooting for them after they got that goal, but to see the emotion, you remember when when Panama scored in the World Cup, it reminded me of that a little bit. When everyone was losing their mind at the end when they finally got their goal. And
we got the goal. Yeah, but you conceded 20,000 goals before that. Doesn't matter. We got our goal. This is our Gold Cup goal.
Well, exactly. Like, I think it had, we watched Canada beat Haiti 1-0 in the evening, and they seem to have one foot in the door of the final round of World Cup qualifying for 2022, which would be a lovely story. And we'll talk about that more as the week progresses in this show or others.
One of his teammates is playing a big game tomorrow too, Roland Lewandowski, which could be a great segue. But yeah, Canada beating Haiti, and next game is Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly. But where I was going with that, though, is like if they were to make Qatar and they are to say they lose 2-0, and then 3-1 in the final game, you're damn right I'm going to be weeping on the floor when that one goes in, because that's there's different levels to the sport, and
we'd be like, you know what we went through to have that one goal? Do you remember San Pedro Sula? Exactly.
There you go. So North Macedonia, congratulations, and hopefully Canada doesn't lose 3 games in the World Cup in and out. I would hope they would be competitive if they get there. But anyway,
what I like about North Macedonia is how they qualified through, and I think it's the no, I know it's the Nations League, but I mean it's the blueprint or the example of what the Nations League could do for a smaller nation. It gives you an opportunity. That's what it is. So basically, it's an opportunity. It gives you a chance to maybe have a playoff game, which they did, and they beat Kosovo and they beat Georgia, and then they go into the Euro. That's because they won Nations League D. Even the D, the Nations League, that is, could be good for you.
I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot pole, but anyway, yeah. Well,
hey, what pole? 10-foot pole? Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, that's just move on quickly. You're right. The Nations League D and a lot of people questioned that when it first came in, because it's like, well, why are you holding a spot for these teams? Because look at them. But North Macedonia was full measure. They played a role in that. It's essentially democratizing it a bit. And look, there's 24 teams at this tournament. It's not like you're really eliminating. Like, who would be in their place? Like, maybe Ireland or someone might have captured another. Like, I don't know. Like, it wouldn't exactly have been a team that's really firing all cylinders. If you can't make it into a 24-team tournament and you're a major power, you're not really a major power. It's okay to have North Macedonia have a spot.
Exactly. And to me, those were fun. I kind of enjoyed the Netherlands game today, too, because when we look at the Netherlands game, well, it was yesterday, and it was today, it already blends in. But that's because of England. It was so weird to start Group D and then finish Group C, and then, okay, tomorrow morning we're going back to Group D. So anyways, We'll get to the England game in a second. I think it'll be a good place to finish the show today to talk about the Three Lions and, of course, Gareth Southgate and everything about this team. The Netherlands, a big victory. Memphis Depay looked great today. 3 goals. Wijnaldum, the captain of this team, the soul. Frank de Boer almost had egg on his face, conceding the equalizer late on a set piece. Talking to a lot of my colleagues around on that set piece, look carefully. It's all defensive misplacement, bad judgment, and of course, not a well-coached team on a set piece. I've seen that before. Oh yeah, Atlanta United under Frank de Boer. Hello, it's going to be entertaining to watch the Netherlands.
Well, yeah, we cover MLS, so we've seen some bad defending on set pieces in our day. Let's be honest here.
But at least it's the same manager, though, as the Netherlands, and that was my point, is Frank de Boer might have this team scoring 3 goals, but if you concede 2 on any given game, you might not win as many as you think.
Yeah, Ukraine's no joke. So I think that, you can take a lot of stock from the fact that the Dutch got this done today, and it was a great game. Unfortunately, I was a victim of the feed issue on TSN, so I was only able to really catch bits and bits of that game and the highlights. Sounds like I missed a good one for the most part, but
you might have missed the best of the tournament so far. Cool.
I ended up giving up halfway through, and I was watching like The Handmaid's Tale. So that's where I went. I went from like nothing like capping my weekend off with some like uplifting TV watching The Handmaid's Tale. But anyway,
exactly. But no, I really enjoyed that one. All right, let's finish today's show and set the table for tomorrow. Of course, second game of Group D will start Monday morning. Of course, here in Canada, 9 a.m. Eastern on TSN in English and TVA Sport in French here in Canada. England, though, today played the first game in Group D against Croatia. England won 1-0. The first 15 minutes of this game, Duane, my God, were entertaining. I was like, this is going to be a cracker. England is going to put the sword to Croatia, and then it didn't.
Kind of fiddled out, didn't it? I mean, a goal's a goal and a win's a win. It's good for Raheem Sterling, jokes aside about him earlier, to get the goal, to get some confidence back, because he didn't have the best end to his season at City. Certainly he had a disappointment in the Champions League final as well. He didn't have any impact in that game at all, really. So for him to get a goal early, not that I'm belaboring that, for him to get a goal early in this tournament, I think was an important one. And there was a lot of debate going into it, whether he'd even play. Certainly he earned this spot there. It was, like I said, the Champions League final impact was something people were worried about, because of course both teams were from England, most players, and there's a lot of City players on the pitch today. Yeah. Seemed okay so far. Is it coming home? I don't know about that, but it's not going to Croatia, I don't think. That's what I'll say.
Well, that's my second point, and I want to give credit first to England, because you're right. They had never won their first game in a Euro in their history before today, and that has changed. Today, a narrative has changed.
Yeah, and I mean, look, one of the weird things about this tournament is the fact that, England isn't hosting this tournament, but they kind of are, because all of their games are at Wembley. Like, that is an advantage.
And the final, regardless, right? So, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if they were to make a final, they would play it at home, right? Like, every step along the way, they're the only team in that. So, like I say, they're kind of the host. And that is an advantage. Like, you just look at the past history of hosts. Like, we brushed over them quick here, and you can make cynical comments all you want about Russia, but they absolutely were a hell of a lot better in 2018 than they were yesterday, right? So,
yes, very much. There might be more to it, but to keep it like safe. This, to keep it like just like what we mean, but we might not mean anything. We're just saying there's multiple circumstances that why you play better at home. This is technically, you're right, an England World Cup, an England Euro.
Yeah, and look, and that's a big deal. Like, can they win this tournament? They can, yes. I don't think that they're the odds makers have them too high, which is, of course, reflects the fact that a lot of people bet on them, not that they actually think they're going to win, which is a topic we've had on the show before, and I'm not going to get into it any further than that right now. But I would safely say they're like fifth, sixth best in this tournament, which is probably as good as they've been in a long time. Now, I am very eager to see Spain play. I'm very eager to see Germany play.
Yeah.
Portugal obviously has to hit it, and of course the world champions have to go out. There's still a lot of quality to come down the pipe. We've only seen half these teams. The Belgians look damned impressive, but who are they playing? We don't know that yet. So first group games, they're always the ones that are the second group games are the best in the tournament. The first ones are always like they start the narrative going, and then the time the second one goes, it's do or die for a lot of teams at that point. And
that's true. If you want to ask about the Belgium, what I can tell you is before Castagne got injured, and by the way, his tournament is done, he has a broken orbital bone in his face. We could tell that, by the way, after we saw him leave the field, his face looked different than before the hit to the face. So I could tell right away there was a big injury. But Meunier, when he came in, he changed the whole paradigm because he has an attack instinct. And he was able to use that gap that was left in front of him, which Castagne has too many defensive responsibilities. So he was falling back on it and not using that space. But not to go too deep into the breakdown of that game and why Belgium won, this contributed to 2 direct goals for Belgium. So that's one thing. But when I look at England, what I think is interesting to me is attempt-wise, they had a similar stats than Croatia, both 8. But Croatia's shots were even though they were 1 on target, they felt not dangerous at all. Croatia looked like so far from a finalist of a World Cup, never mind a team that can make it out of the group stage. Maybe the one team that will be penalized the most about a 1-year postponement, because a 1 year older Modric, who's the oldest player in that team, really showed today.
Yeah, and it's funny, by happenstance, it wasn't happenstance completely. I looked this up. I was watching their infamous game from the 2008 gold or Euro when they the 2 goals were 90 seconds apart and 0-0 to 119 minutes, and they scored 2 goals in a minute, blew the game and lost in penalties to Turkey. So I was watching that game, and there was a lot of those guys, the generation that went to a World Cup final were rookies basically at that point, and it was just interesting to see them young and then immediately go to that game, and just the change, the dynamic has changed so much so quickly, right? 2 years is a long time,
and 3 is even worse, and that's where I'm saying is like, wow, because when you look at the top end of that team, that's their oldest player, and that's where is the trouble. If you got a couple of old players, like look, North Macedonia had a guy who's 37 that looked like he was 73. But he still went out there and did well. Russia had a guy who looked like he was 92 as a center back. He did great. Not this guy. Luka Modric, he clearly looked like the oldest. Not clearly, but because we have an idea of what Luka Modric is. But this is not 2014 Real Madrid Luka Modric.
No, it's not. And he was a great player. He still is a great player that peaked at a level which made him, for a very short burst of time, among the best players in the world. I think that he won the Ballon d'Or largely out of fatigue from the other winners that year, and based on the fact they wanted to reward Croatia for making it to a final. That's taking nothing away from how skilled he is. But as I say, 2 years is a long time. You mentioned all those older players. Italy has a starting defender who played in the 2006 World Cup winning team. So, people can play a long career.
Exactly. But he's surrounded by players like Nicolo Barella, who looks like he's 12. He's still going to get carded if he goes to the store to buy anything alcoholic. That's not true. You can buy alcohol at 10 in Europe? If you're 10, you're good?
So yeah, first time I went to England, I was with a friend who was 16, and we tried to get into a pub, and the bartender looked at me baby-faced, but he was 6'4". So she's like, "How old are you, son?" And he kind of stammered, and then the other bartender went, "I don't know if he's old enough, but he's tall enough," and then poured him the pint. So that kind of tells you a little bit about their attitudes towards
He's like, "Yeah, who cares about age? He's tall enough."
Yeah.
Give him a tall one.
Exactly. There's my drinking. It's in Europe when I was a teenager. But anyway.
Well, it's a good way to end the show, because speaking of drinking, tomorrow, one of the games we have to start the day is Scotland playing their first major tournament since 1998, and also to try to finally get out of a group stage of a tournament. They have tried 11 times, and so far, 11 times, they've failed.
It probably will be 12, but, 3 teams get out, so maybe there's a chance there. I'm excited to watch Scotland play tomorrow. It's probably good for the kidneys of a lot of expat Scots that I know, that the game's early. So that's something, although I'm sure they'll find a ways.
If there's a will, there's a way. Also, it's early our time. Who says they're gonna say, it's another time somewhere else?
It's this 98, how many years ago was that? 22, 20, what is that? I can't do math right now.
1998 is 23 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. 2020, 21. There you go, 23. I'm excited to see that. And look, they're not a debut nation, but they practically are because it's been so long, right? Like, I can remember Scotland in that tournament. You probably can't. And that's, difference in our age. And but it's a long time. 22 years is a long damn time. And so it'll be fun to watch them there. It's unfortunate that they won't be able to fill that place with the Tartan Army, but enough of them, I'm sure, are going to find their way down to London. Well, enough of them probably live in London, so it'll be a fine day out, I'm sure, for all of them. And I guarantee you that there will be some pints pulled there.
That's really going to be the big difference. But what would be your prediction for that game?
I will believe that Scotland can win a game when I see them win a game in the tournament. So that's what I'll leave it at that for now. So I think that the Scots will lose.
All right. And the second game tomorrow, Poland against Slovakia. That's an interesting aspect. Robert Lewandowski making its debut in this tournament. Can Poland do something interesting? We'll watch tomorrow. Spain is another one of the teams that I am interested to see how they make their debut. Now, of course, famously captained by Sergio Busquets, Luis Enrique's second spell as manager of the Spain national team. A prodigal son has returned, and this time it's for good. They've been playing well. Luis Enrique has brought unity by not selecting any Real Madrid players. This is going to be an interesting Spain team.
It's really unified all of the Spanish.
Let's not choose any of them. We're unified against them.
Yeah, so the Atleti fans and the Barca fans are most happy of all, I'm sure. But I of late think it's not a major tournament until Spain. I've seen Spain playing it once, and that was a product of the last decade when they're. It's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that they aren't still that good. You know what I mean? Like. They were such a huge part when I was first starting to talk consistently about the sport to people. Spain was it. So I'm always eager to say that. But the back half of this tournament, the contenders are starting to roll out now. So this should be fun. I picked Spain to win in the preview throw. I was being a bit contrarian with that, and probably a bit influenced by what I just said, to be honest. But I will be watching with interest because I think it's an interesting sort of hybrid team that's not quite what they used to be, but still has a lot of quality. I mean, it's Spain. We can't ignore them.
No. And, of course, we all have PTSD from 2008, 2012, and 2010, of course, also the World Cup, because we saw them win it all 3 times in a row. So it's hard to believe that they actually did not do well since then, but sometimes not that bad, which Spain will show up as a bit the topic of this tournament, and it'll be interesting to see that matchup tomorrow at 3 p.m. But until then, you can follow Duane on social media at 24th Minute, myself at Kev Laramee, and this show at Soccer Today SBN. We'll be back, of course, Monday around 9 p.m. Eastern with probably a live version podcast for sure to come tomorrow. But as always, for Duane Rollins, I'm Kev Laramee, and until tomorrow, have a great soccer